Australia is wider than the moon. Not metaphorically, literally. At nearly 4,000 kilometers across, Australia exceeds the moon's diameter by 500 kilometers. But here is the thing. That is barely the 10th most surprising fact about this continent. Australia contains rocks hiding underground like icebergs, an ocean trapped beneath the desert for 1 million years, and a lake so pink it looks like a rendering error. These are 10 geography facts about Australia that sound fake, but aren't. If you're the kind of person who loves geography rabbit holes, hit subscribe. We do this every week. Now let's start with the rock formation everyone thinks they know. The iceberg nobody sees. Everyone has seen Uluru, the iconic red monolith rising 348 meters above the desert floor. Millions of photographs, countless documentaries. It is one of the most recognizable landmarks on Earth. But what most people do not realize is that Uluru is like an iceberg. Approximately 2.5 kilometers of rock extends beneath the surface, roughly 7 times as much hidden underground as is visible above. Think about that for a moment. What tourists photograph is only about 12% of the actual structure. The vast majority of this ancient formation sits invisible beneath the red desert sand. And here is the mystery: we still do not know exactly how deep it goes. Geological surveys have not conclusively mapped where Uluru's underground roots actually terminate. The rock that everyone thinks they know is mostly hidden from view. But here is where things get controversial. The biggest rock you've never heard of, most people assume Uluru is Australia's biggest rock. It's not even close. About 1,000 kilometers north of Perth sits Mount Augustus, called Burringurra by the Wajari people, and it is 2.5 times the size of Uluru. At 1.65 billion years old, it is also older. The formation is so massive you can see it from 160 kilometers away, and its circumference stretches nearly 50 kilometers. So why has almost nobody heard of it? Because fame in geography depends on access, not size. Uluru sits near Alice Springs with developed tourism infrastructure. Mount Augustus sits in remote Western Australia, largely overlooked despite being the actual record holder. Australia's rocks defy expectations, but what about something that should not exist at all? The island that breaks every rule. K'gari, formerly known as Fraser Island, is the world's largest sand island at 1,840 square kilometers. It is 123 kilometers long and 22 kilometers wide, all pure sand. No bedrock, no soil, just sand piled on more sand. But here's what breaks every ecological rule. Lush rainforests grow on top of it. This should not be possible. Rainforests need nutrient-rich soil built up over millennia. K'gari has none. The trees should starve. They should wither and die. Instead, they thrive. The answer lies in symbiotic fungi that unlock nutrients directly from sand grains, creating viable growing conditions found nowhere else on Earth at this scale. Scientists call them mycorrhizal networks, essentially underground fungal highways that feed the roots what the sand cannot provide. Add over 100 freshwater lakes sitting on sand dunes, some containing water that has been perched there for thousands of years, and you have an island that violates basic geography. If sand can hold rainforests, what else is Australia hiding underground? 1 million years of water running out. We've seen a rock that extends 2.5 kilometers underground and rainforests growing where they should not. But Australia's biggest secret is not rock or sand, it is water, and I'm not talking about the ocean. Beneath 22% of Australia, an area covering 1.7 million square kilometers across 4 states, lies the world's largest artesian basin. It contains 64,900 cubic kilometers of fresh water. To put that in perspective, that is enough to fill Sydney Harbour 130,000 times. This water has been trapped underground for up to 1 million years, held in ancient sandstone aquifers beneath impermeable rock layers, a geological time capsule. The basin supports over $12.8 billion in annual economic activity and keeps the outback alive. But here is the conflict. Since the 1880s, uncontrolled bore drilling has caused water levels to drop over 100 meters in some areas. A 1 million year resource is being depleted in decades. The race between extraction and conservation continues. Now, if Australia has a hidden ocean underground, it also has water that looks like it came from another planet. The lake that looks like a glitch. Lake Hillier on Middle Island off Western Australia's coast is so vibrantly pink it looks like a rendering error. Unlike other pink lakes that change color seasonally, Hillier stays pink year-round, even when you bottle the water and take it home. The explanation is extreme salinity similar to the Dead Sea, combined with halobacteria and red algae that produce carotenoid pigments. The interaction creates a color that persists regardless of temperature or season. Here's the absurdity. The lake is completely safe to swim in. You can only reach it by helicopter or by small plane. There is no public ground access. Australia's natural features are extreme, and so are the human attempts to control them. The fence that created more problems than it solved. We've covered rocks that hide underground, water that shouldn't exist, and lakes that look fake. But now let's talk about what happens when humans try to reshape Australian geography and why it almost never works the way they expect. The dingo fence stretches 5,614 kilometers across 3 Australian states, from the Darling Downs in Queensland to the cliffs above the Great Australian Bight. That makes it one of the longest structures humans have ever built, longer than the Great Wall of China's main line. Construction began in the 1880s and it was unified into a single barrier by the 1950s, all to protect southeastern sheep stations from dingo predation. One South Australian station lost 11,000 sheep in a single year before the fence was completed. But here is the paradox. The fence works, and that is the problem. Without dingoes as apex predators on the southeastern side, rabbit and kangaroo populations exploded. The fence successfully solved one problem while creating others, and dingoes still find gaps, which requires constant maintenance at significant cost. If humans struggle to control land with fences, imagine trying to protect something living that spans 2,300 kilometers. The Great Barrier Reef is not just a collection of coral, it is the largest living structure on Earth and the only biological organism visible from space. Stretching 2,300 kilometers along Queensland's coast, it covers 348,700 square kilometers. That's larger than the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Switzerland combined. You could fit Italy inside it with room to spare. The reef is built by billions of tiny coral polyps accumulating over millions of years, nature's most ambitious construction project. Each polyp is roughly the size of a pinhead, yet together they have created something astronauts can photograph from orbit. The reef hosts 1,500 fish species, 30 whale and dolphin species, 6 sea turtle species, and roughly 10% of the world's coral. It is not just big, it is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet, but climate change is threatening its survival. The 2016 and 2017 bleaching events caused by elevated ocean temperatures forcing coral to expel their symbiotic algae damaged significant sections. When coral bleaches, it loses its color and its primary food source. It can recover, but only if conditions improve quickly. The reef generates $4 to $5 billion annually for Australia's economy, making its potential loss both ecological and economic. We have seen extreme nature and extreme human intervention. Now let's experience the extreme monotony. The road where nothing happens. The Eyre Highway's 90-mile straight runs 146.6 kilometers without a single curve. Imagine driving for nearly 2 hours without touching the steering wheel. No bends, no deviations, just a line drawn across the landscape. The Nullarbor Plain beneath it stretches 200,000 square kilometers of flat, treeless limestone. The name literally means no trees in Latin. The horizon appears frozen. Monotony becomes hypnotic. Drivers report a strange kind of meditation that sets in after the first hour. The highway was built between 1941 and 1942 as a wartime project, following the route of explorer Edward John Eyre's 1840 to 1841 crossing, the first European overland transit of southern Australia. But here is the utility hidden in the boredom. Sections of this road function as emergency airstrips for the Royal Flying Doctor Service, marked with piano key runway markings painted on the asphalt. The most featureless road in Australia doubles as life-saving infrastructure. The smallest continent that breaks every rule. Australia is the smallest of the 7 continents at 7.7 million square kilometers. It is also the flattest, the lowest, and the second driest after Antarctica. The average elevation is just 330 meters, far below any other continental landmass. Yet despite these surprising superlatives, Australia contains more geological extremes per square kilometer than anywhere else on Earth. Underwater monoliths, pink lakes, water that is 1,000,000 years old, living structures visible from space, sand islands that support rainforests, fences longer than the Great Wall, roads so straight they become runways. The pattern is consistent. Australia defies expectations at every scale. If you made it this far, drop a comment with which fact surprised you most. If you want more geography content that sounds fake but is not, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.